Hi, welcome to our Lego Bible story. I hope you have your Legos all ready. I have Action Jesus with us to look over us and keep us company. Today's story comes from the second book of the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. It's the book of Exodus. And it's a story with Moses. I think that's Moses today. And what was happening was God had sent Moses to Pharaoh, who was the king, to let the people of Israel go because they were enslaved in Egypt. And God had heard their cries and their suffering. And he sent Moses to tell Pharaoh to let the people go. And Pharaoh had been saying no every single time, and all sorts of bad things had happened. And Pharaoh still said no. And this time, God said to Moses and to his brother Aaron, this be Aaron, because Moses didn't like speaking, so he had Aaron do that for him. And God said to Moses and to Aaron, "This month shall mark for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you. Tell the whole congregation, all of the people of Israel, that on the 10th day of this month, they're to take a lamb for each family or household. If a household is too small for a whole lamb, like if the lamb would be too much for them, then they should join their neighbors and get one between them. And the lamb should be without blemish. It should be perfect. And they should keep it. And they can take it from the sheep or the goats, because they called baby goats lambs. Whichever one is fine. And they shall keep it until the 14th day. And then, at twilight, they shall slaughter it and take some of the blood from that and put it on the lintel above the 2 doorposts. And then they should eat the lamb the same night. They should roast it. They should cook the whole thing, and anything they don't eat, they should burn. And the way that they should eat it is by the fire and with unleavened bread that doesn't have time to rise, and with bitter herbs. And none of it should be raw, and none of it should be boiled. It all should be roasted, all of it. And nothing should remain. And they should eat it with their sandals on their feet and their clothes all ready and their staff in their hands so that they could go at any moment. Because the Lord will pass through the land of Egypt on that night and strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human beings and animals. And on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord." That's what God said. "And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you live. And then when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and nothing will destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. And this shall be a day of remembrance for you. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall observe it as a perpetual ordinance." So always. The Passover of God. The people of Israel the Israelites had been enslaved by the Egyptians. And they had cried out and cried out and cried out to God. And God sent Moses to save them. And Moses went to Pharaoh, the leader, and said, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh always said no. Moses brought his brother Aaron, because when God told Moses to do this, Moses said, "I don't really speak very well." And so God made Aaron go with him. I wonder if you have a brother or a sister that you ever said, "I don't do that very well. Let them do it." But on this night, when none of the other things had worked, God was going to kill all of the firstborn, all of the people and the animals. And the Israelites, who had been slaves, were to have a lamb. And if the lamb was too much for their family, they were to get together with another family and share it. And when they killed the lamb to eat it, they were to put some of the blood above the doorway so that their houses would be passed over and that all who were in there would be safe. And they were to eat it like they were ready to go at any moment. And they were to celebrate this night, always. In fact, this was such a big deal, what God was doing to save them, that this month would now be the first month of the year. It changed the calendar. God passed over their houses and kept them safe. I wonder what you like about this story. I wonder what you think is the most important part. I wonder where you are in the story. I wonder if there's any part of the story we could leave out and still have enough story. I wonder if you have ever eaten these foods, if you've ever had roasted lamb or unleavened bread that doesn't rise, or bitter herbs. I wonder if you ever ate with your shoes on and almost your jacket on, like you were ready to go out the door any second. I wonder if you know anybody who celebrates Passover. Because the people of Israel, the Jewish people, they listened to that commandment to observe this holiday and celebrate it as a perpetual ordinance. That means all the time. And so every year, they celebrate Passover. They celebrate when God passed over their houses and led the people of Israel out of Egypt, out of slavery, because God heard their suffering. I wonder if you have ever been to a Passover celebration. I wonder what's difficult for you about this story. I wonder what this story teaches you about how far God will go to save God's people. I wonder how it felt to be the Israelites, who God heard when they were treated badly and they were slaves and they were oppressed and they weren't free, and God heard them. I wonder what it was like for Moses and Aaron to say that these things were going to happen. I wonder if people listened to them. God passed over their houses, and so Passover is celebrated. God saved the people of Israel who were suffering and cried out. I wonder how it is that God hears the people who are suffering, that God listens to the people who cry out. I wonder if you ever cry out to God and wonder whether or not God listens. I wonder what this story says to you about God listening.